it's Alexis, and today we're going to be doing my April and May wrap-up. Okay, so in April I was still finishing up school, so my reading was a little bit lower than normal, but I read 5 books in April. The first one I read was The Upside of Falling by Alex Light, and I thought that this one was really cute, and I feel like I related a little bit to the main character, Becca, I think was her name. She was going through a really tough time. Like, her parents got divorced and a bunch of other stuff, like, was happening. And in spite of everything that was happening to her, she was still more focused on other people and putting them first whenever she could. And I feel like I do that a lot, so I feel like I related to her quite a bit. But yeah, I thought this one was really cute. And it is a Wattpad book, so, like, you could tell by the writing that it was a little cheesy and stuff, but I still really enjoyed this. I ended up rating this one 3 stars. Next, I read Killer Instinct by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is book 2 in the Natural series. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to finish this series. I want everybody to read this series. It is so good. It is, if you don't know what this series is about, it's basically Criminal Minds, but teenagers. These kids have these, like, special powers, I guess you could say. Like, one of them is really good at reading emotions. There's 2 of them that are profilers. One of them can tell if you're lying, and one of them is good at math, I believe. And they're, like, recruited basically by the FBI to help them solve cases. And this one was, like, is my favorite one so far out of the 2 that I've read. But, like, I highly recommend this one, like, this whole series. I ended up giving that one 4.5 stars. And then I read Happily Never After by Lynn Painter. This one was really good until the 3rd act conflict, and then I wanted to chuck it into the lake. I really, really enjoy Lynn Painter's writing, and I highly recommend this book still. I ended up giving it 4 stars. And then I read Time Bomb by Joelle Corbano. I had never heard of this author before until one day at the bookstore. My husband saw this book and he's like, dude, this sounds good, you should get it. And I'm, like, glad I bought it because it was really good. It's about these students show up at school, I think it was like a week before school starts, and they're, like, getting their student IDs and finding all their classes and stuff. And then suddenly there is a bomb threat about to go off, and they're stuck inside the school. They have to figure out how to escape, but one of them in the school started setting off the bombs. So it's kind of crazy. I ended up giving that one 3 stars. And the last book that I read in April was Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I absolutely loved this book. This ended up being my first 5-star book of the year. Yay. Because I haven't had a 5-star since July. So it was a long time coming. But this book is about Justin, who posted on Reddit that he was having this issue where everybody that he dates goes off and finds their true love after they break up. And Emma sees this Reddit post and she's like, hey, the same thing happens to me. So then they decide to date each other because they're like, well, if we date and then we break up, our curses will cancel each other out and we'll go off to find our true loves. And then they're also both going through a lot, like, on their own. So then they kind of bring their problems together. I just thought this book was really, really good. And it's my first book that I read by Abby Jimenez, and I think she's going to be, like, one of my new favorite authors, so I'm excited to read more of her work. Now onto the books that I read in May. The first book I read in May was Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. I absolutely loved this book. I listened to the audiobook of this, and I thought this book was so funny. It is about this guy named Wallace, and within the first chapter, he dies. And so then he's at his funeral, and this person from the in-between of death and life, she comes and gets him from his funeral and takes him to the in-between. And he just basically lives there for a while. And has a it says he's given 1 week to cross over. So he has to like come to terms, I guess is what I'm trying to say. He has to come to terms with the fact that he died because he was very upset that he was dead. So he has to come to terms with it within a week, and just a lot of stuff goes on. And it's like really funny, but it's also sad at the same time. Like some of the topics in here are sad, but I highly recommend this book. I ended up giving that one a 4.5 stars. And then I read The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by her, so then I was excited to read another book by her. This one was really, really good. So this is about Belle, who her family is about to do a documentary about her mother who went missing 16 years ago, I believe. Then suddenly, when they're in the middle of filming, her mother shows back up. So now Belle thinks that this is not her mother and that it's someone lying about the story. And she's trying to get to the bottom of like what happened to her mom, and it's a wild story. I highly recommend this one. I ended up giving it 4 stars. And then I read The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, and I also listened to the audiobook of this one. I never took my bookmark out, but I listened to the audiobook of this one, and I really, really enjoyed this one as well. This one was about Linus, who works, I guess, basically with like DCFS, but for magical children. So he goes to all these orphanages and makes sure that they're being treated properly there. He runs, like when he gets promoted basically to go to this orphanage in the middle of the sea, and is taking care of, there's like a trash truck or something outside. But he goes to this orphanage and he's like making sure everything is good. He ends up not wanting to leave because he loves the children so much. But I just think that this is really good. And book 2 of this is coming out, I believe, in September of this year. It's going to be about the master of the orphanage, Arthur, is what book 2 is about. And I'm excited for it. I ended up giving that one 4 stars. Next I don't have a physical copy of this, but I read Diary of a Wimpy Kid by Jeff Kinney. When I went to a little free library, I found one of the books there, and then I was like, I want to reread that series, but I don't have the physical copies anymore, so I've just been getting them off of Libby. So I read Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I don't know. I still thought it was kind of funny, but I didn't feel the same way about it now that I did when I was a kid and read it. But I ended up giving it 3 stars. And then I read Mrs. Nash's Ashes by Sarah Adler, and this book was really funny and really cute. It's about Millicent. She was a roommate basically with this lady named Mrs. Nash, and whenever right before Mrs. Nash died, she was telling Millicent about her one true love that she never got to be with for the rest of her life, and how she wanted to reconnect with her if there was still a chance that she could do that. But by the time that Millicent found out like where Mrs. Nash's true love was, Mrs. Nash had died. So now she took some of her ashes and was traveling to try to reconnect her with her true love, even though she was dead. And it was just like a funny story of her getting there and then like everything that happened along the way. But I really enjoyed this book. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. Next I read Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman. I really, really enjoyed this book. This is the first graphic novel that I read, if you don't count Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I am so excited to finish this series. This is about Charlie and Nick, and Charlie is like openly gay at this all-boys school that they go to, and then he meets Nick, and they just like slowly start to become friends, and then slowly start to become more than friends. And I just think this was really, really cute. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Next I read book 2 of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series, which is Roderick Rules. Again, it didn't hit me the same as it did when I was reading it for the first time as a kid, but I ended up giving it 3 stars. And then I read Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score, which is book 2 in the Knock 'Em Out series. I didn't like this one as much as I liked the first one. In the first one, I really liked Nash's character, But in this one, he seemed just whiny, and I didn't really care for him that much. But yeah, I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. And hopefully I liked the last one. And then I read The Notebook by Nicholas Sparks. I was really nervous about this one because I've never seen the movie, but I know that like it's a lot of people's favorite movie, and reading the reviews on Goodreads, this was like a lot of people's favorite book. People were rating it 5 stars, and I just wasn't liking it. Some of the things that were happening, I was like, what is going on? Like, why do people like this book? So I ended up giving it 2.5 stars, and I feel like people are going to be mad about that, but it is what it is. And then I read book 3 of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, which was The Last Straw. And again, I just gave that one 3 stars. I thought it was okay. And then I read Dog Days, which was book 4 in the series, and I also gave that one 3 stars. And then the last book that I read in May was Love Light Farms by B.K. Borson. And this one was really cute. It was about Stella, who owns a Christmas tree farm, and she's not doing so good on her tree farm, like financially. So she enters this contest to try to win the grand prize, and she lies in her application for the tree farm that she has a boyfriend when she doesn't. So she enlists her best friend to fake date her to try to win this contest. And I just thought that this one was really, really cute. And I ended up giving this one 4 stars. But yeah, thank you so much for watching today's video. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day.